Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tech Talks. Our IT edition today is focused on getting started with IT Service Intelligence, or ITSI. Tech Talks is a series of short webinar deep dives for technical practitioners. We value you as our customer and want to help you continue on your Splunk journey. Our experts help create these best practices for you to leverage them in your daily role. My name is Caitlin Reynolds, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Splunk. And today I'm joined by Mark, my colleague, who will be discussing ITSI with you today. And so with that, I'll pass it over to you, Mark.
Hey, Caitlin. Thanks very much. As Caitlin said, my name is Mark Series. I've been with Splunk for just over 4 years as a consulting engineer based in the UK. I'm going to take you through the aspects of IT Service Intelligence today. First, I'm going to provide an overview of the problem we're trying to address. Then we'll dive into the Splunk Service Intelligence solution and why our approach is different. We will then investigate how to get an implementation project started using our methodology. And then we'll go into how to run a service decomposition workshop in your own organization. And then it'll be demo time. Throughout today's session, there's a Q&A widget where you can ask me questions. Please feel free to ask questions there. Thank you. I'm sure you're all very aware of the complexity of IT. Each part of the picture has a tool which only reinforces siloed working. These silos create so much noise, which then results in a long time to get a resolution. And typically, organizations will have multiple dashboards, and each of these dashboards has its own language. The organization is interested in providing a service to their customers. That's the stuff in the white. However, this is underpinned with applications, and these in turn are run on that infrastructure. So you'll need to develop KPIs on each of these layers to make your life a lot easier. It's super important to monitor all the KPIs, both business and technical. The worst dashboard are all green when the reality is a business service has failed. And when an issue appears, it's critical to reduce the event noise and get to the root cause super quick. We'll cover how to do this in the demo. ITSI is huge, and today we're going to address one of the use cases. The other use case will be saved for the next Tech Talk. Okay, so let's cover key concepts. So service and its dependencies, as you can see on the left-hand side here, is the structure of the service we're trying to model. And in this case, it's an online retail service. And that online service has some KPIs, and you can see that in the middle part, which can be business KPIs like revenue, orders, customer churn. And then on top of that, we have the service health score, which is a wrap-up of all the KPIs within that service. And you can see on the picture that each of these KPIs can be weighted. So, for example, response time might be more important than an OS metrics. And then on the right-hand side, you can see entities that could be hosts or they can be instances. So this is the journey. On the left-hand side, you can see the service decomposition workshop. This is the design phase. This is where the business service is identified and the services within that, and the subservices, the dependencies, and all the metrics that you care about, the KPIs, and making sure the data sources are available. This is really important that you have the business input into this workshop to make sure you get the aha moment at the end of this exercise. So once you have the right people in the room and you've built the service, you may want to engage a centre of excellence or your Splunk team to ensure that you get the data on board. And this is the lower part, which is all around data onboarding, and to make sure the surface, the KPIs for ITSI to use. Phase 3 is on the right-hand side. This is the configuration phase, and it's split into 2 sections. The first one, the lower part, which is what we're talking about in this session today, is all around creating the services, the KPIs, and modifying the deep dives, and you're going to see how to edit the glass table in the demo. The second part, the bit in yellow, will be covered in the next Tech Talk. A typical output of the service decomposition workshop design phase would be a whiteboard covering the business service that we're trying to model. This can often last a few hours and maybe different discussions on a service components, things like KPIs and what data sources feed those KPIs. The purpose of the whiteboard session is ultimately to come out with a design that can then go through to the implementation. For the purpose of the demo, we'll focus on building out the database service that you can see at the bottom here in red. Okay, so now I'm going to go into IT Service Intelligence, and I'm going to start off with the Service Analyzer view.
The Service Analyzer view is where you can see the health of your business service. In this instance, the Buttercup store is having a few issues, as we can see with the severity color codes. So green obviously being good, red being bad. So let's open up the Buttercup store level, and if I click on that service, I can see the key performance indicators within that service. And these KPIs are very much focused around what would be of interest to the service owner or the executives in your organization. So things like checkout success rate, revenue, maybe conversion rates, things like that. And I can scroll down, and as you can imagine, as we go down the tree, so for example, cart services, they're more technical key performance indicators or KPIs come into play here. So we can see one of them here is having a problem, so it's 5x errors, and we can see that one of the entities or several of the entities are having a problem. So let's go and have a look at that. So we can click on that quite simply, and we can see all four instances or entities are having problems. So this is across my estate. So I can go and investigate that. I can also see some events happening, and again I can acknowledge those and go and investigate those. And I can have a look further down the tree if I wanted to. So this gives us a really quick visualization of the health of our business service, which in this case is Buttercup store. However, as we said on the service decomposition during the introduction, we're missing the database level. So what we're going to do now is going to create a new service. So I'm going to go into the menu, configuration menu, and click services. And in here I have an option to create a service or import from a CSV or import from a search. Now, import from a search could be using one of our integrations into a ticketing system, and obviously then getting the CI information from that ticketing system to build the service tree. But in this instance, I'm just going to create a simple service tree. So in this instance, I'm going to call it on-prem database, and I have several options here. So I can use pre-built KPIs modules. So if I click on the database module, for example, and what this does, it gives me a list of 7 key performance indicators or KPIs, and it highlights the ones that Splunk, using their best practice and their PS engagements, recommend for monitoring a database environment. So things like deadlocks, response times, storage, writes and reads, that kind of stuff. However, in this instance, what I want to actually do is create or use a service template. Okay, a service template is used for if you have multiple databases in this example. What I can do is I can use a database template to actually say, right, for all my databases, I want to inherit static rules or certain rules, and I want them to inherit some KPIs. In this instance, I've got 9 selected. And I want to enable backfill, obviously, so I want to go off and get some historical data when I create that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a on-prem database service using a template. And what we'll see here is some entities that have already popped in. So I've got MySQL 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I had a new MySQL 05 appear in my environment, that would just drop in dynamically into this service that I've created. And these services are very flexible. I can add more rules here if I wanted to, but for now I'm just going to say anything that's got a host that is equal to MySQL, drop into this service. And I can have a look at the KPIs that I've just created, and we can see they've all got padlocks. Now, a padlock means it's inherited from that service template that I've created, but I can create a new one. So in this instance, I'm just going to create a generic KPI just for the time being, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it database response time, and again I can just reuse that in the description if I wanted to, and go through the options now. So now I've got some options on what I want to do. I can use a data model, a metric search, an ad hoc search, or base search. So in this instance, I can use a base search, and I can scroll down here and find the base search for databases. So I've got a database with stream. Okay, and then I can select the metric that I'm interested in, which is response time. And then I can just click through. And in this instance, because I'm using a base search, I'm not going to be able to split by entity, but you could split by entity if you're doing an ad hoc search. And I can run it on a regular period if I wanted to change these. But again, because I'm populating from a base search, I'm not being able to change any of these figures. And I can just go through. And the most important one here is the backfill. I must remember to put the backfill on there. So backfill can be 7, 14, 30 or 60 days, depending on whatever makes sense for your organisation. Most people will start with 7 days and work out if that's a good day to have backfill. The reason why you'd want backfill would be for all the machine learning parts we're going to investigate in the third talk track. So now we can see some data flowing in, and I might say, well, show me over the last 4 hours what that data looks like. And I can see it's going up and down. There's a few data points on here, and I can add some static thresholds if that makes sense. And I can just click on that and add them there if I want. And I can adjust them and fine tune them either by moving the controller there or actually just typing in a figure into the box on the left hand side. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to hit the finish button now, and now you'll notice a new key performance indicator called database response times appear. Because it is custom to this service, it hasn't got a padlock, so it's not inherited from that template. So if I change anything on that template, it will propagate on all the key performance indicators. They've got a padlock, but not the one that I've just created. So that's just worth remembering. So this service doesn't have any dependencies because it's at the lower end of the stack of the Buttercup Store business service. And now I've created it, I want to enable it. That's very important. And also I want to backfill the health score. This is really important because I've created all my key performance indicators. I've now got an opportunity to weight these key performance indicators. So for example, the database response time, I might say, well, that's really important. I'm going to give that a weighting of 10. Or I might say, well, disk is not so important, so I'm going to reduce that. So all of these weightings and this importance will have an effect on the health score of that business service. So I'm going to just leave it at that for now and hit save. You must remember to hit save. So now we've created that service. What I need to do now is go back into the service menu, and I want to associate that new service with the authorization business service. So I'm going to go into the authorization service. And in here we can see the service dependencies, and what I can do now is add a dependency, and I'm going to add the new on-prem database, and I can bring in the key performance indicators for any of the subservice, but what makes sense is bringing in the health score. So if you remember, the health score is a roundup of all of the key performance indicators within that service. So if the health score is having a problem, then obviously something in that service is having a problem. So that's why I want to propagate up. So I'm going to hit done and hit save. And now if we go back to the service analyzer view, we should have our database service now included in that model, and it will be still going off to get all that data. And we can see now we have the key performance indicators. Some of them are grey because the state is unknown, because the search, and that's what a key performance indicator is, just a search, a question, is still running in behind the scenes. So it could take up to 5 minutes to populate this data. And then we will see more information coming back. But we can see the response time that I created has already got that data back. And we can see the historical data for the last 7 days is being collected. So what I've shown you is a very quick introduction to the Service Analyzer view, where you can see the health of your business service from the top level right down to the bottom level. We've created a new service and included some key performance indicators from a template, and added an ad hoc one, and we've included that into the model. So I can now see my on-prem database is having a problem. When I click on the on-prem database, I get on the right hand side the key performance indicators coming up, and these KPIs we can see the severity, some are high, some are medium, some are low. So my eyes is obviously drawn to the high, and we can see that it's something to do with the disk space. and I can click on there and I can see the actual entities, because I know my database is a farm of several machines, and I can see MySQL2 is actually having a problem. So it's probably worth investigating. So this is great for a moment in time, and it tells me where to look for a problem in my service. However, what I can do is I can click on deep dive option here and actually drill down into this service and have a look at it from over a period of time. So what I've got here is historical data, and I can see the health score for that service is 100% all the way along, and then at some point around 10 o'clock this morning it started going wrong, and over a period of 2 hours it went really wrong, and the service stopped working basically. So I can see that there's a snow change request being authorized there, and I can see some Windows events that have happened as well. So it can pull in information from all sorts of places, and the idea behind this visualization is to provide the war room or the virtual war room attendees, the heads of technologies, a real clear indication where the problem is and get to the root cause of the problem, and more importantly, see the business impact. Because at the moment this is all very well, because it's showing me likely areas. Maybe it's the database errors, maybe it's the disk space, and what I can do is I can actually add some information here, so I can go and have a look at the rendering if I wanted to. And this is really interesting. I can, if there's any gaps in the data, I can just say what to do with the gaps. But what I can do is I can also look at the overlays. So I can break that down and have a look at it from entity, and that will now break that swim lane, as we call it, into separate entities. So I can see MySQL2 is the one that's having the problem very, very quickly, but I still don't know what the business impact is. So I can go to my Buttercup store service and I can pull in some business KPIs. So all I'm doing is bringing in revenue, and I'll bring in successful checkouts. I'm going to move them to the top, so next time I come into this visualization I can see very quickly what the impact when this outages started happening and eventually created a loss of revenue for my organization. So again, I can go back and have a look at what happened yesterday, last week and last month, and compare that if I wanted to. I can add lanes if I want to pull in more information, maybe another key performance indicator, maybe some more event information from my ticketing system, whatever. Okay, and I can go back, and this is over the last 6 hours, but I can go back as long as the historical data is in there and see what's happening. But what I really want to do is start thinking about, actually, if I see those 3 swim lanes behaving in this same manner again, what I want to do is build a multi-KPI alert. Now, what this is actually doing behind the scenes is building rules to correlate events together. So in the instance here, I'm saying if you see the health score going down, maybe triggering to a high state, maybe that happens over one time, and maybe my revenue, maybe I'll build another trigger that says, okay, maybe if that goes to, from a normal to a low, 10% of the time, let me know about that. So what I've done is I've just created a correlation rule, and it's very flexible. I can build these triggers in many ways, but I'm just going to save that now and call that database alerts, and I'll repeat the name just for the thing. And now what I can do is I can specify a time this runs. I can say every 5, 15 or 30 minutes, but I'm just going to leave it as the default. And I can give it a high severity, maybe, because it's important, and I can save. What that has done now is create the correlation search rules. So when that triggers and fires off, what I expect them to see in my episode review, which is where all my alerts appear, in here I will be able to see some events, and I can see here my on-prem database issues, and I can see some events over a period of time. Now the second talk track that's happening will be covering this in a lot more detail, so I'm going to stop at that point and go back to my service analyzer view. So the service analyzer visualization is very good at getting to the root cause of a problem with a business service and highlighting key performance indicators that may be having problems. And having the ability to drop into a deep dive and investigate root cause of a problem really quickly. business leaders, executives and service owners probably would not want to use this visualization. What they probably want is something similar to what I'm showing you here. This is what we call glass table. It's effectively a blank canvas, and it gives you the ability to bring in any visualization and any representation of your business, and whether that is a visualization like here, or a process, or a floor plan, or a map, or whatever it is. And being able to surface key performance indicators and health scores and other information onto that canvas. And that can be either in a form of just a single value, or a spark line, or maybe even a dial. So lots of different ways of visualizing that data. And you can see one example here. So at the top level we have business information for a retail organization. And obviously the executives care about revenue ultimately and how many orders are being processed, but they probably also care about customer satisfaction. So maybe they're getting data ingested through Twitter or whatever social sentiment feed they have, and maybe they're getting some ticket information coming in as well. And then as we move through, this may be application layer information. But at the bottom, as to the service decomposition, they've got some infrastructure information here. So we can see very quickly at a glance the health of our organization and if there's anything that we should be aware of. And obviously this is a live dashboard that changes as the status changes. What I'm going to do now is I could edit this one, but there's a lot of information. So I'm just going to pick a more simpler one that I've got as an example here. And this is just a transaction flow. So as you can see, it's a similar kind of information, people coming in from the web or mobile, coming into the middleware and then going through to the database. And I can edit this if I wanted to. So I can actually say, this is Mark's transaction flow, for example. And what I can see here is I'm missing the health score for the database. So what I want to do is I want to drag that out and show how easy that is. So at the top level, we have some tools here along the top. So I might want to add a new background on here if I wanted to. It's very simple. I can just add an image. However, I might want to add a bar chart or a chart, a line chart here if I want to, or an error chart, or maybe even a map onto here. So, it's lots of different ways of visualizing that. I can also add just symbols. So I might want to put, shapes like circles or rectangles and have those change colors based on a search. An underlining search. So it's really flexible. But for this instance, what we're going to do is we're just going to drop in the health score for the database. So we go to the source, data source icon here, and we can see our on-prem database, and we can see the health score key performance indicator. So I can grab that and I can drag that to wherever it makes sense. So I'm going to put it there, but obviously I want to resize that. So it's just a question of grabbing the corner and resizing it to whatever looks right. I'm moving it to where I think it looks nice. So I'm just going to put it there for now. But I can do all the things here. I can change, I can put a description on here and title, etc. I can put a spark line on here if it makes sense. I can put some number formatting in. This is just limited at the moment. The later releases, there are going to be lots more capabilities and features on here. But for now, the most interesting one here is the add a drill down. So if you can imagine, I can add a glass table link to another glass table. So you could layer your glass tables canvases from one canvas to another canvas. So you can really use it to drill and investigate a problem. But for this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a simple drill down to what we did earlier, which is our deep dive. We save that view, and I'm just going to hit save. And that's as simple as that. So, and I can go back and edit that if I wanted to, and say, well, actually I want to open in a new tab when I click on that link, and I can finish on that one there. So this is really powerful, and it's all drag and drop, and it's easy clicking away and doing some changes. What I might want to do is I might want to drop into the actual code, and like everything in Splunk, it's really simple to change. So I might say, actually, rather than saying Mark, I might say this is our retail transaction flow, for example. Everything you see on the screen is in code here, so you can change it and edit it. And then when you go back, the changes are immediate. So there we go. So Mark is now being changed to retail transaction flow, if that makes sense. And then we can just save that. And that is really how simple it is to create a visualization and a representation of any data within IT service intelligence. And like I say, once it's done, you can then launch in context into different visualizations just by clicking on whatever you've made into a drop down. So from here, I could click on here and drill down into that deep dive. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavor into the glass table capabilities.
So hopefully I've given you insights on how to get started with service insights capabilities of IT service intelligence. The next tech talk will introduce you to the things to consider when configuring event analytics part of IT service intelligence. For example, the guided correlation rules to reduce the noise, how you can correlate multiple data sources, not just Splunk, using machine learning to build aggregation policies, and how to configure the episode reviews visualizations. So for now, I'm going to hand back to Caitlin. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for that presentation and demo. We're about ready to wrap up this tech talk, but before we do, I wanted to share some valuable resources available to you to continue your journey. From docs to training and certification, as well as conf talks, we have a lot of great material available to you. You'll receive links to these assets as well as the recording from today in a follow-up email. Finally, don't forget that we have an incredible community of Splunk users on our community site. You can search the ITSI tag on Splunk Answers, or you can continue the conversation for this talk within the discussion section called Tech Talks. We also have Splunk Ideas, where you can submit new product enhancements or vote for current ideas from other customers. All right, well, that's it for today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to join us. Please tune back in for future Tech Talks. We're looking forward to sharing more with you throughout the series.